So now that you've learned a little bit about the nature of science, we're going to talk today about how chemistry is a science and the factors about chemistry that make chemistry a science. So first things first, chemistry is a science because chemistry is a way of knowing. And one of the most common ways that we know in chemistry is through this process of experimentation, data collection, drawing conclusions, making hypotheses. So that's really, when you think of what is chemistry and why is chemistry a science, this is probably the first thing that you think of. Another way that chemistry is a science is that chemistry has repeatable and testable hypotheses. So this is an image actually of a very famous chemical reaction called the iodine clock reaction. And what it does is it measures reaction rates. And so basically what you say is that as the concentration of the solution increases, the reaction is going to happen faster. And we can make this hypothesis and test this over and over and over again in the lab. And every single time that you increase the concentration of the reactants in the reaction will happen faster. Another way that chemistry is a science is that chemistry is actually a human endeavor, which means that you have things like teamwork, collaboration, and argumentation. It is very rare to see a scientist working all by himself or herself in a laboratory. Particularly if you go to any college chemistry research lab, you're going to find teams of 10, 15, 20 people working together on a single project, discussing their ideas through a process we call argumentation, helping each other with their experiments, and ultimately coming to a singular conclusion that's right, testable, and repeatable. And one final way in which chemistry is a science is that chemistry knowledge is tentative and changing. So this is a picture of the history of the atom, and it's simplified, and you'll learn a little bit more about this later in the course. But we went from thinking that an atom was a solid sphere, a tiny unbreakable ball, to thinking it was a positively charged cloud with negatively charged drops in it, to learning about the nucleus and thinking it was positive, to adding things like neutrons, and then figuring out how electrons move. All of this happened in the span of just about 200 years. And we're constantly learning more about atoms and subatomic particles today. So as we learn more, as we make new discoveries, our knowledge, our models, the way the world works in chemistry, it's tentative and forever changing. And perhaps most of all, this is really what makes chemistry a science. So what are the big takeaways? Well, number one, chemistry is definitely a way of knowing. We do it mostly through experimentation, but sometimes through observation and other processes we discover chemical knowledge. The second is that chemistry is definitely a science because its hypotheses are testable and repeatable. And finally, chemistry is a human endeavor. This means that chemistry knowledge is often tentative, and it's often found through the process of collaboration. So in this course, you're going to be asked from time to time, how does this show chemistry as a science? Or how does this show the nature of science? Remember that if you learn through experimentation, you make repeatable and testable hypotheses, and knowledge is shown to change through the process of human collaboration, that really is how chemistry is a science.